Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me, Jake.
It's my pleasure. I basically just shoot a heavy question straight off the bat. And
Go.
I wasn't sure which way to go because I love the stuff that you've done about like time locking Bitcoin. We'll get there.
Sure.
You are someone that I've seen physically that is evolving rapidly in terms of how you look after yourself. And I think that's to do with Bitcoin in some ways.
Yes.
So why has personal health become important to you?
Well, I think obviously you can slice it a couple of ways. I think there's two sides to it though, but personal health, obviously. At the end of the day, right? Like I'm an entrepreneur and I started a company and that company's no more and all those sort of things. But when you do that, like everyone sets up for their whole life to be the CEO of this or the CEO of that or whatever it is. You're the CEO of your body. We're born with that. And the weird thing with health is that we take it for granted because we got it for free, basically. And so that's a really important thing to think about. It's like, well, why do I like something so much? Or why don't I care about something as much? And so it becomes this sort of, I don't know. I think health is like that. But we're all the CEOs of our body. And so for me, I'm still, I still treat my body like garbage a lot of the time, but I'm trying to improve that gradually. And so it's like I found like I found a lot of excitement through Ironman, so triathlons. That was a huge thing that was basically totally out of band. I'm a computer person, don't know anything about that, but for me that was kind of the biggest catch-all, where it was like, oh, if you can do that, it becomes there's no way you can fake it, basically. When you go through things in your life or whatever, sometimes you can take a hit to your confidence, or maybe you lose yourself in a process or something like that. But you find that then what can manifest from that is what's called imposter syndrome, where you're not sure if you did do it or you didn't do it, or you were the right person for the job, and you kind of sixes and sevens in your head. And so it's like, now when you do something that's really hard, you get that certainty for yourself. And so I found like the journey with Bitcoin, for example, Bitcoin's ultra disciplined, right? It just keeps going. It's like the master endurance event, which is basically producing another block every 10 minutes. And like, it doesn't change for anyone. It's getting bombarded with opinions all day for the past 16 years. Oh, we need to tweak this, make this faster. No. And it's just said no. And no is a modern day superpower, in my opinion. It's like today, in this day and age, being able to say no to things, which I'm not saying I'm good at, but I'm saying like in general, it's a superpower, because when you have so much coming at you from so many directions, if you can't say no, you kind of get bombarded and sort of just wobbly and confused almost. And so I think the discipline, the relationship, or the consistency with Bitcoin sort of, you look at it, it starts staring back at you long enough. Like if you look at it long enough, what is Bitcoin good at? It shows up every day. It does the hard work. It just keeps going, and it's ultra reliable. And so it's like, oh, well, what can you do every day to feel like embody that? Because that's pretty impressive in this day and age. And then, yeah, I think like Iron Man is a good catch-all, because you don't need to know anything. You just have the goal, and you know that you can plot a path to get there, and it might take 2 or 3 years. But the important thing is that it takes time, because there's no way you can recover from things or improve on things without time. So whether that's your thoughts, your feelings, or your body, you need time. And so, to say, oh, I need to fix this in the next month, it's like, okay, probably it's not important enough. If you can fix it in a month, it's probably not the most important thing you should be fixing, right? But like other things, what it does, it lowers your time preference. So this delayed gratification in a way, like, or you're trying to think more. If you're thinking about your money as how planning my future with money, and let's say I'm on a Bitcoin standard, I might plot 5 or 10 years ahead and try and work back with, let's say, a stacking goal. Now, like our bodies are the same. My 50th birthday or my 40th birthday, what do I want for that? Well, I want to be healthy. I want to be alive. Like, let's start with that. But, all these kind of things. And so you've got to work backwards from it. So you make all these investments that suck today, but you feel like they're going to be mad tomorrow or in the future. And the goal is you 10 years from now can look back at you today and be like, dude, thank you so much. Whether that's physical fitness, mental fitness, Flexibility, another bad thing. Didn't know that stretching was good. Now it's like the best thing on earth. It's unbelievable. Like, there's a whole world there. Just how we drink the Kool-Aid of Bitcoin or anything like that. Everyone's got their own version of Kool-Aid, I've realized. And it's just as Kool-Aid-y. So the Ironman people, they're obsessed with training, triathlons, and all that sort of stuff. And the Bitcoin people, they're obsessed with money, economics, and politics, and all that stuff. And it's just sort of, it's so interesting how that develops. But you find they're both two really hard things. Bitcoin is very hard, like it's very difficult to change, and an Ironman is very difficult as well. And one of the things in an Ironman is that you can't use headphones, you can't use any stimuli. So you've basically got to sit on a bike. Full Ironman will take you anywhere between 12 and 17 hours. So you've got to sit on a bike with your own thoughts for probably 6 to 8 of those. And that's not like, that's not like sort of people around you. That's on a long highway with the burning sun after already being on it for like 6.5 hours. Where does your brain go then? Like, what happens to your brain? Like, the thoughts you're trying to think, new thoughts, you can't find them doing the same stuff. So you've got to put your body under a different situation, not taking it to a different place physically, a location. That's one part. But you've got to, well, what am I like with my heart rate at 70 trying to make decisions? What's my heart rate at 140 trying to make decisions or trying to think clearly? It's kind of like a seeing how much you change or your thought processes change. Obviously, when your heart rate's really high for an extended period of time, you get it's hard. And so what happens is you're very emotional, and your emotions become much more malleable almost, or exposed, because you've been under so much duress. Like, I think all these things were sort of, and I know that's a real waffly way to say everything, by the way, but basically,
Waffle's good.
yeah, consistency and discipline is probably what Bitcoin sort of expressed the most to me. And like the fact that it can be consistent and disciplined in this world, I've never seen anything do that. And I'm like, well, that's a pretty good barometer to start with. This guy's doing it all by himself, and no one can fucking stop him. And like talking about Bitcoin in that regard, it inspires you in a way, I think. So like in a way, it definitely provides you some inspiration to be like, you know what? Maybe I can embody more of those values. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I think like Bitcoin's a pretty good thing. Forget the financial component. I think just as a thing existing, it's fantastic. So I don't know. I definitely know that that's been part of my thing. You see a lot of people that get into Bitcoin and then they become carnivore or something like that. They adopt these other things that are locally known, let's say local to the community. And I think that's part of that, like exploring, right, what's my new, like if my money was this terrible, what else is terrible? Oh, my health is terrible too. Oh, my body is terrible too. And you start realizing, oh, okay, everything.
Like a mirror.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It feels very much like a mirror. And I don't know, but I found that as an interesting journey is, what do you get from working on your body? Does your brain improve? Like, do you learn faster? Do you learn more efficiently? Do you see things other people don't see? Do you mix topics together like other people wouldn't? Because, this is all just this part and parcel of experience, right? The more experience we can give our bodies or our brains, in good and bad, the more it can learn. And so it's like you want to try and cram as much into the movie as possible almost. And let's say our life's a movie, not literally, but like we really want to make the most of it. So it's like, let's go. And I think the line of thinking that you get from the Bitcoin community, or understanding like that, just a very critical thinking, you then extend that and adapt it into other parts of your life. And so, that critical thinking is usually good for revealing the problem, not solving it as much. So it's like, oh, if you think critically about, oh, that's the actual problem we need to solve, whether that's health, wealth, or anything like that. But I definitely think there's been a ton of lessons in it. Like, it's incredible. It's a culture where it's encouraging discipline and stuff. And again, we're all working on discipline, right? It's setting a good example. It's following through on what it does. And a lot of the community around it sort of echo these, sort of immutable principles and stuff like that. But I definitely think it encourages a more sustainable lifestyle in that regard, like whether it's family, friends, or what are the actual important things that you need to fill your cup up. It's not the seventh Ferrari, and it's not the ninth Ferrari, and it's not the 10th Bentley that gets that, like, to fill your cup. And it goes back to that sort of saying, money Money buys you a house, not a home. It'll pay for a doctor's bill, but it won't get you healthy. And it'll buy you a clock, but it won't buy you time. And it's so true. It's like, oh, wow, Bitcoin fixes money. Okay, cool. Well, what else do you need to have in life? And it's sort of like this, oh, there's a whole basket of things we need to do properly. But this fiat system is sort of not not hypnotized it, but sort of hypnotized it. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like life itself has been hypnotized by this fancy glitz and glamour and stuff. No, you need more cars and more brands and more this and more that, and it creates, or the inflation mixed with fiat stuff, it sort of encourages this ephemeral lifestyle where everything's throw out in 2 years, 3 years. Oh, the table will be shit in 1 year. We'll buy a new one then. It's not like the roots of life, which was that's my grandfather's clock and he made it with his bare hands 40 years ago. And we don't need another clock in the house because we can tell the time. Everything else would be wasteful. And then it's, oh, that's my nan's recipe book. This respect for tradition goes out the window when everyone can get everything very quickly. So because we can feel like we're Superman as a species and we go, oh, we can make that again. We can make this, oh, we can do 1,000 a day. We blah, blah. It's like we're starting to realize that the quantity of stuff you can produce is usually a bearish indicator on the quality of something. If it takes you 2 seconds to produce 1,000 of these things, whatever they are, they can't be that valuable. It's like, the handcrafted stuff. So the craftsmanship is coming back now because we're not seeing enough value in the things we're buying. So we're trying to buy the work of others in a way. I don't know. It's a bit word soupy, but do you know what I mean when I say that though?
Absolutely. And there's so many different ways. There's like 8 podcasts in that first answer. But Mike, something that was explained to me recently that would be good to ask you is, in the Western world, we encourage / in a way idolize ultra young entrepreneurs, and someone like yourself has actually been through the Silicon Valley process to an extent. 20 something, engineering, backed by so and so, and then burnt out. Whereas the more Eastern philosophy is like, when you're 55, that's when you really start to make a judgment on someone's prowess at something. Hone your mind and your body in preparation of being 55, not the like, I need to be a gazillionaire by the time I'm 30 and be burnt out and sick.
Yes, and that's the thing. Burnout is so real, by the way. And I'll just explain, like, yes, the priority is on, make money, make an impact or whatever. It's not on survival or happiness, which is just so cooked, in my opinion. As someone who's had good times, bad times and stuff, like, you've got to engineer and optimize for happiness, or let's say content. One of the biggest problems...
Is that a change you've made, Mike, specifically?
100%. 100%. I'm so, like...
and what does that look like in practice? Like,
how did you used example.
To think versus now? Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you an example, right? Coming back from America, there was COVID on and I had to do 2 weeks quarantine or whatever. And someone was like, what do you want most when you get out of quarantine? I literally was like, I want to hug my parents, say hi to my grandma, and walk on the beach. And they were like, how weird is that that's all 100% free? And I was like, well, yeah, that's because now that's like, I value that now because I realize those are the proofs of work. Everything else is just stake money, get it. But you don't stake money and get, a home that feels warm and comfortable in your own. You stake it and you'll get a big house, but it won't feel like your own. I think that there's been a tenacity to innovate, like this very aggressive kind of, Zuckerberg was 22 and then Facebook went massive, and this kind of age kind of this effort to kind of bring down the youngest, the coolest, like bring that age gap down. I just don't think it's right. I mean, as in, I don't think they're optimizing for the right thing. Yes, of course, build the great company, do all the amazing things, but you have to look after yourself. Like, you can't burn out. These 17-hour days and living off Red Bull for like 6 days, like, you're young, it works, but literally that's how you will get sick. So you might be doing 14-hour days when you're 22 and feeling good and feeling amazing, but you'll end up getting a burnout or some degree like that. But the problem is, if you don't do that, the other people will. I'll give you an example, like your competitors, right? We'd be competing with other companies, and it's like, oh, well, we can do an all-nighter, but they've got to go home to their wife and kids, and they've got a mortgage. They can't do that. If you look at Michael Schumacher talking about a race that he was in, and this dude took the gnarliest, basically a really risky turn, he was like, I knew he would take the turn because he doesn't have a wife and kids. And that's like an actual thing that goes through there. Like they'll adjust the fear factor and risk factor of people based on those metrics, like in race. And I just think in the entrepreneur world, we're optimizing for almost like innovation, but it's not. It's, I don't know. It just feels like one person sacrificed in the process. Does that make sense? It's like the founder or the CEO, whatever it is. They will make the impact, but how will that change them or their trajectory or their goals? I don't know. It changed me for the better. I was really happy. I love the fact that I did an Ironman. Like, to me, that was like so left field and different. And that's like a big accomplishment for me in my soul, because it feels much harder to do for me because it's not a natural sort of environment. But I do think that focusing on youth and these short-term, short-sighted metrics, like, I don't care how good your company is. If you're sick and not taking care of yourself, you can't be that smart. So it means what you're doing can't be that good. If you're so blinded by it, it's like, I don't know. I do think that we sort of prioritize the wrong direction sometimes, like in my opinion, because you cannot have you cannot be doing all-nighters all the time. Like, it just doesn't work. And like that mentality, obviously rise and grind and everyone's got to do it, but variety is the spice of life. And that is probably the biggest thing that I learned, is that keeping a foundation of variety is the strongest longevity tool in terms of you mix things up. So you do your community stuff, you do your family stuff, your friends stuff, your professional stuff, but having that will make you the best you. I suck at moderation, and that was one of the biggest lessons for me. Like,
how am I not surprised by that?
You are talking to the mayor of shit, at like literally the worst in the world. No one worse. But in the same way, it's like, well, like yeah, you're talking to an expert, by the way. That's what I'm saying. Is in, like, I'm the biggest retard when it comes to this stuff and moderation. And take it from me, I've got some years under my belt. Not heaps, but I've got enough to say it's not the way. It's one of those times where the young person would be like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're such an idiot. Like, you don't know. We're doing all night." It's like, okay, sure.
Mate.
I don't
call me in 20 years' time.
Exactly. And it's the same thing with like mum and dad. It's like, oh, get off that phone, turn that TV off. It's going to ruin your eyes. 10 years later, I need glasses. 20 years later, the person they told me, hey, that guy's bad news, don't hang around, in year 3 or whatever, turns out that dude's in jail now or something. They're always right. And that's what I've just sort of come to learn, is that people with experience or wisdom, like, their time on the tools is a very underrated thing. And there's no computer science model that is going to reproduce that. And that's what a lot of people are starting to sort of feel. There's a gap in society right now where we know everything, but we understand very little. And so you can chat GPT anything you want, any time of the day, YouTube it, and you'll know it. And you hyperfixate on it, and you get this huge knowledge dump, but you don't understand it. Do you know what I mean? That it's like
it's like surface level knowledge, isn't it?
It is. It's sort of like you've got a surface level knowledge, but the old guy that's been doing it for 50 years will be able to tell you all the stories you need to know and teach you a ton. And I think this all comes back to the whole psyche of today, which is heavily dopamine orientated. And this cycle around dopamine is like, I don't know, it just becomes a bit too aggressive. Like, we're always trying to do 100 things. Why are we trying to work 40 hours a week and cram in 3 weeks worth of work? Like, why are human beings not focusing on their purpose and their craft more? Like, if we were working 40 hours a day 45 years or 60 years ago, like 1960s, surely you would think that somehow between then and the internet being created and iPhones and a rocket launching into space, landing on the moon, you would have thought that that 40 hours has come down somewhat. And it hasn't, which is just wild. And I think we need work. I'm not saying we don't need work. I'm more saying that it's just sort of one thing is skating faster than the others. Like technology is advancing like crazy, but people aren't getting more chance to think. Because if you're still working 40 hours a day, you've still got the same problems that are going to cloud your thoughts. They're going to cloud your focus, your judgment. And I mean that more in like distractions, right? You know, when you're driving past someone's house and you're trying to find it, and you go, no, turn the radio down. I'm looking for the house. And do you ever do that? If you ever driving and you can't see, like you're trying to find the house on the street, and you're like, oh, I've got to turn the radio down. I can't hear, and it's too loud. Like it's interrupting your vision. It doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like my biggest takeaway is that I just realized old people are always right. That's like if I could give any lesson to someone, if everyone wants the shortcut or what's the summary. Basically, whatever the summary is, just reread some previous summary because that old dude was right. And I think when you think about how these people, like how wisdom doesn't have a high value in society right now. And I think that's a really big problem because we have so much knowledge now, but we don't have the wisdom. And knowledge and wisdom are sort of, in this harmonic relationship. And you need both. You can't have lots of knowledge without the wisdom, which is the lessons learned. And you can't have a lot of wisdom without having the knowledge first. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just think we underestimate that. Sometimes we go, oh, everything else is new and cool and fast and cheap. Like, we're better than this. We're the peak of humanity. And it's like, maybe there was something to the cadence of having things coming a bit slower. When you get everything like that, you're updating your brain's frame rate to be like that. So now it's going to expect everything. And if you expect things in a certain way and you don't get them, your body is going to respond differently with frustration or disappointment or whatever because you mismanaged your expectations. And I think like this hyper aggressive or hyper accelerating world, like I think the definition of acceleration needs to change. People talk about effective accelerationism and all this sort of stuff. Dude, show me how to live longer. Show me how you put more stuff into your body that adds value than doesn't add value or whatever. Because you can't accelerate anywhere if you're all dying. And let's take a look at the stats. People aren't having babies now, nowhere near as much as they used to. And people are dying of preventable causes more than ever. And so we sit here and we say, we're sort of the peak of humanity. We've got the internet and this. It's like, dude, we're the fools. We're the foolish person. Like that's as a species, we look like the foolish types. Oh, you've got all the money in the world. Imagine an alien visitor coming to us and we go, oh, we've got all this money. And they're like, cool, it doesn't work anywhere else in the world and you're all sick. You guys will be gone in like 10 light years because you're killing yourselves. They won't even have a negotiation. There's no, oh, who's the president? Nuclear missiles. They're out. They have a conversation, look at us and go, dude, you're too stupid to even interact with. You're killing your own self. Not even harming each other. You're harming yourselves. The number one cause of death for men, like young males in Australia, one dude kills themselves every 3 hours and 40 minutes. What environment can we create that we could call intelligent? What environment says that's an intelligent place to live? The men there kill themselves every 3 hours and 45 minutes. Well, that's in Australia. So when you think about that, that's wild. And that's like, men are like needed for society. And so are chicks, like girls and guys. But this is the thing, they both need to exist. So if one's existing and one's not, we're all cooked. And so when you think about what's actually important or what actually adds value, is the iPhone 20 with a 19 megapixel camera going to add value? Or is In and Out putting beef tallow instead of seed oils going to add value? And I think obviously they're making some real decisions that are beyond the the consumerism or the capital expenditure, basically where they're looking beyond their balance sheet and saying, well, fine, what should we do? This might cost a bit more, but at least our customers will be alive for longer. In and Out swapping from seed oils to beef tallow, perfect example. Probably costs more to use beef tallow. And that's why we all start using shitter and shitter ingredients, because money is like squeezing everyone at their soul, right down at the deepest root of their decision-making framework. Because every morning when we wake up, We get oxygen for free, and most of us get water for free, but we don't get money for free. But money is this artificial oxygen. We need it. We can't live without it, basically. And I think that's a pretty important thing to sort of zoom out and realize. Like, what is our definition of success as a species? Is it to have more iPhones? Is it to have better cameras? Like, probably not. I'd say the benchmark or the barometer for success or whatever would be the cohesion as one. How on the same team are you guys? Like, if you look at a football team, they all hate each other. They don't win. They keep losing. You're going to be like, yeah, guys, you've got a bad attitude. You all think you're the superhero, so no one wants to be a team player, and that's why you're losing all the time. And like, we keep wondering, why are people having babies? Why are people dying all the time? Why is everyone at conflict? No one's on the same team. Literally, no one's on the same team. And there's 8 billion of us. That's why Bitcoin has this very unique opportunity, in my opinion. If we think about what being on the same team really is, right? We think about things that unify us. No, so look at the Spanish language and Mandarin. They're the two most common spoken languages, or whatever, common first spoken languages. But that's not the language of Earth. The most common language of Earth is going to be the one that everyone most likely has access to. And in this case, it's the most common second language that we'd choose, and that's English. So English is the most common second language. Now, if we only did what the most common thing was, that means we'd always speaking Mandarin, because Mandarin's the dominant, like there's more people that speak Mandarin. But there's more people on Earth out of the 8 billion that speak English as a second language. So basically, their backup is always the most reliable thing. And so with language, we think about English, and with Bitcoin, Bitcoin will probably take the same path. Is it the biggest asset? No. Is it the most desirable asset? No. But will it be the most likely alternative asset? If you picked anyone on Earth at any given country, is it likely that that is their alternative asset of choice? Yes, that's very likely. And that becomes an accessibility thing. You know, everyone's going to use it because everyone's got access to it. And I think there's a lot of contrast there between these unifying elements and Bitcoin. And I know people talk about this, but it actually is. What happens when, Donald Trump owns Bitcoin and I own Bitcoin and I do something good with Bitcoin? He's happy. I'm happy. Forget whether you're the president or not. He's just another community member wanting his bags pumped or whatever. And that's great because I'm wanting the same thing. Now, if we zoom out and we think about that in corporate companies, oh, you're on a Bitcoin standard, we're on a Bitcoin standard. Okay, well, cool. We're both on team Bitcoin. That's a start. Whether we hate each other on the surface layer, we both respect this game of Bitcoin. It's like two footy players or hockey players. They're on competing teams. But when it comes to representing their country, the game stands beyond their own rivalry, And I think that's what Bitcoin has a chance to do across the planet. So if I'm a new country or whatever, like I'm a country that's smaller than the US, and then I go, oh, we had a lot of friction with the US. And the US is basically prioritizing a strategic reserve to get them out of the $35 trillion in debt or more, which is a really big problem, by the way. 35 trillion of anything is a problem. Ants, termites, tic tacs, or dollars. Like, it's a big thing. And so, like, I think, like, if I'm a country and I'm holding Bitcoin and evangelizing it and doing a lot of work for it and all this stuff, then yeah, as a country that is, whether they're competing against me or not, it doesn't matter. They're going to be grateful and happy that I'm on the same team as them, So it's this kind of common language because money is so deep down the stack of our thoughts and decision making. When someone adds value to your money, it adds value in many other places to your life. Like if you get a $500,000 bonus at work or 50,000, whatever it is, that's going to add a lot of value to you because you wanted that money. In the same way, if Bitcoin's pumping because of certain things or whatever, everyone that's got Bitcoin is happy and on the same team. And so there is something to be said about that kind of unification that it has, or let's say diffusing or disarming competitors, whether it's retail level, corporate level, or nation state level. And you hear all this hippie stuff. Bitcoin has a chance to bring everyone together and unite the world and and enlightenment. It's true. Like things that we all value together collectively. We all value oxygen. No one's rushing to take oxygen off the planet. Like we all need it. In the same way, if Bitcoin does its job really well, Bitcoin will be the same thing, where it's like, hey, whatever your differences is between you and I, that's fine. We're both on a Bitcoin standard. We'll be able to figure it out. Like that, it transcends so much, and it starts becoming a new battleground almost, where it's like you forget any rivalries you ever had in the fiat system, because that was all, everyone was hypnotized. You weren't trying to fuck me, I wasn't trying to fuck you, I was just trying to pay the bills because it was a really shit system that kept going up by 20% every year. I'm sorry, I was just doing my job and everyone else is just doing their job and all that stuff. And it's like, I don't know, but I think Bitcoin's really punctured the minds of so many to be able to kind of just peek through the cracks and be like, wow, what would happen if we were all on a Bitcoin standard? And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't, even if Bitcoin didn't exist, it could be anything, monetary, language, or whatever. But we'll take Bitcoin because it's Bitcoin. Bitcoin's sort of like internet is our database, Bitcoin's our money. English is the language, internet's the database, and Bitcoin's the money. And so it feels like they all work very well hand in hand, as everyone's non-local sort of secondary source of whatever, whether it's information, the internet, whether it's money or value, then it's Bitcoin, or whether it's language, it'll be your native language. Yeah. Does that make sense or not really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How it sort of has a chance to be glue.
Well, Mike, what I definitely resonate with you, that statistic about male deaths every 3 hours. What was the cause of death? Suicide?
Self-harm, yeah, suicide.
Suicide. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
So my question would be, how many of them are living on a Bitcoin standard? And how many suicides have happened for people that have adopted Bitcoin? Like, I don't even know if that data exists yet.
I don't think it would exist. Yeah,
it's anecdotal, but Bitcoin is having more kids. Bitcoin is happier. Yeah. Bitcoin is having better ideas. Bitcoin is planning better for the future. Bitcoin is just generally, it's green everywhere. It's not just in like becoming the CEO of your body. It's not just in the relationships around you. It's your level of happiness is higher. Yeah. Like idea of incoming space invader coming to trade with seemingly very wealthy place and sees all these people that have all this money, but they're all dying. So fuck trading with those guys, because they're not going to be around in 5 years' time. Play long-term games with long-term people. They're not going to stick around.
Exactly.
And that's why when people say to me, "Oh, why do you care so much about this stuff, Bitcoin?" And this is what gets me fired up. It's because it's a seriously fucking big deal, guys. Look what's going on. No one can afford a house. Yeah. Everyone's dying and no one's happy. And now you have this whole other system that it generally flips all of the incentives. And as you said, it's like glue. Yeah. Take it from there. Why is it like glue?
Well, just back to if we have a limited amount of bandwidth in our brains every day, right? Let's say there's 86,400 seconds.
You can only point your attention somewhere for so long.
You can only point your attention and you've only got a limited amount of attention every day. And so it's like every day, let's say fiat standard, right? I wake up, bang, kids yelling at me. Then I got to have breakfast. Then I got to look good for the day. Okay, shower, get to work. Hey, where's that spreadsheet? Okay, boss is already on my ass. Okay, fuck. 11 o'clock comes around. Might go for a smoke. 1 o'clock, I have lunch. Call my mate. He's complaining about his day. Come home to the office or come back to the office. Boss, you fucked up that meeting. Boss is chewing me out. Your whole day is filled with other people's problems. Your entire day. And all while you're trying to put up with those problems because you need to figure out how to make more money than they're printing every year. So that's a lot of, you got to make 13% a year. Best, good hedge fund traders will not make, they can make that or whatever, but the index average is 11%. You got to beat the index every year. What chance does any human being, and I'm not saying I can, I'm saying
most active fund managers don't even beat the index.
Nah, we're all in the same, poo sandwich. Well, hold on. Is that game even worth participating in? Because it's taking all my mental bandwidth. It's giving me all this, it's layering on heaps. Only, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Only to get this tiny drop of water out of it. All the problems, all the headaches, all the confusion, all the ambiguity. Open your calendar. You're a human being on Earth. And your calendar is probably 90% jobs for other people. And it's that's not the goal, guys. That's not the goal. Whoever's in charge, that's not the goal. I don't want, like, no one wants to work on a beautiful planet for 50 years in a concrete box when we're like meant to get sunlight. That's not it just doesn't add up. And
Yeah,
so
Space Invader is going to turn around.
100%, dude. And so, like, I think there is an important thing about, yeah, being smart with our choices as as a species and stuff. But Bitcoin, because it it is predictable. Two levers: predictability and risk. If I have a high predictability, I have a low risk. If I have a low predictability, I have a high risk. What are the inflation numbers next year? I have no
Who
clue.
knows?
So how can I start planning financially today when that's a big X factor question mark? That's one of the biggest ingredients into my entire financial future. It's not possible. So as a lazy person myself, I will look at Bitcoin and be like, well, what's it going to be next year? And then well, how do you know? Oh, it's certain? Oh, great. Well, now I can set my watch to that because it's not going to change. Imagine you had a clock in your house that just chose random times all the time. You'd be like, I'm not trusting that, and that's not a good foundation to build my calendar off. That's what you're building your financial future off. Like with a confusing, randomized sort of inflation number all the time. It is unfair on individuals, in my opinion. It's very unfair because everyone's a human being. Every person was a kid with a dream, with passions and with zest and excitement. And it feels like a lot of the air's getting sucked out of that room. The default state for us is like enthusiasm. We should be excited. We're on a beautiful planet. We've got oxygen. But like a lot of the stuff is taking the buzz out of the air. And I think a lot of people are very tired. Let's think of a day. Okay, you and I, let's say we're a married couple. I'm a girl, you're a guy. Or let's say you go. So you got a family living in Sydney. Okay, they have a kid. Cool. Oh, we just had a kid. Can you look after it? Great. So the wife stays at home, looks after it. Husband works extra hard. Wife takes care of the kid. Okay, great. Oh, shit. Okay, well, now he needs daycare. Okay, well, let's put him into daycare. Okay, well, I've got to work now because the daycare costs $180 a day after tax. Like $180 a day. That's as much as you'd pay like a bricklayer to come and build a wall for you. And it's just a person taking care of your kids. But basically, whatever the earning capacity is, it's limited because, like, you obviously, like, there's, the limitations on all this sort of shit. So I come and start working. Now I need to figure out if it's $180 a day, that's after tax. That's what, I don't know, $790 a week or something. That's like after tax dollars too. So if I come in and get a job for 100K, that's 2K a week after tax. That's going to be, 1,400. I've minced all my pay almost on basically so you basically come out breaking even. Okay, we were making X before, kid needs to go to daycare. Now we're making still X because the daycare is offset two parents working because the quality of life or the cost of living in Australia is so high. And like as a recipe for a species to procreate and pursue, greatness, I don't think that's anywhere in the manual or the handbook. Like I just think it's so tough and it's so unreasonable, the expectations on. Imagine if you're 14 or 15 now, like, and they're like actually still saying like, or 17 or 18, they're like, yeah, go to uni, get a job and save for a home. If you saw that 17-year-old doing that, you'd be, or your son was doing it or whatever, you've got a kid, you'd be like, mate, do you think that's adding a bit too much risk, taking out $200,000 worth of debt for an arts degree or whatever it is? I don't know. In Australia, it's actually quite affordable to go to uni relative to other places. But, people call Bitcoin high risk. What if Bitcoin's high risk as an
How
investment?
versus
What
what you
what
just
is
described?
what is a uni degree for $200,000 in debt?
Hmm.
What is that? You tell me. Imagine if you could choose that when you're 18. Do you want to apply for university, or would you like to start building wealth immediately? I'd like to start immediately. Imagine you could take a $200,000 loan from the government to buy Bitcoin when you finish school, or you get the loan for student education. Dude, everyone would pick Bitcoin. And not because it's Bitcoin, but because they're like, that uni degree is not worth much anymore. They're priced the same as they were. The syllabuses are the same pre and post internet. Like it's not really that value adding. Now, if you're trying to become a surgeon, a civil engineer and stuff, sure. You're doing an arts degree. I don't know one person in history that's going to pay off a $250,000 whatever economics degree. It's very expensive today. So be very confident about, if you know what you want in kind of an education, then that's a big investment. And you may find that investment was worth a lot. In an era when the internet didn't exist, knowledge was very, very valuable. And so being employed for knowledge or education is a really big thing. Oh, you've got a uni degree, you've done this, you've done that. Now the information is so quickly transferred. Knowledge isn't really the biggest value adder for people now because it's so widely distributed. And, I think if you think about, knowledge was once a currency. Not everyone knew everything. We know everything now. Not everyone knew everything. So my parents, when they were growing up, they didn't know what a French accent sound like because they can't just chuck on a movie or, they don't have it. Oh, pull up YouTube. Let's listen to someone with a French accent. They'd have a poster that they bought for $15 or something as inspiration. They didn't look at 1,000 pictures of France every day on a phone. They just got one photo or, this one beautiful image of my grandma in these lush mountains somewhere. That's my dream. And we hold on to that because there was no noise flooding your dreams. Oh, hey, what about this? Hey, what about this? The internet is full of shiny objects. So they're all there to distract us, basically. But before that, people could kind of know what they wanted probably a lot quicker because it wasn't as much choice. But you look at all the residual effects of choice, and there's anxiety, depression, Alzheimer's, like all these kind of things that are being produced from the excess consumption of choice, which is our phones, basically. Like, these problems are new. It's mind blowing to think that they're unrelated or uncorrelated. Like, no, if you stare at a screen for 12 hours a day, evolution wanted you to look. The evolution didn't want you to download the entire Earth's knowledge every 2 seconds. Evolution wanted you to really try and find that berry in the bushes in the middle of the forest once every 3 days. That's what our brains were designed for or evolved for. But over the past 40, 50 years, they've been put on steroids. But evolution hasn't caught up. So when you have this disconnect, in there between the disconnect is all the problems, sickness, all that kind of stuff, because we haven't caught up. We're trying to do too much. It's like putting a jet engine on a Cessna plane or whatever, like a propeller plane. Is like, it'll probably vaporize it. The plane can't handle it. And it's like, it's like that saying, give $1 million to someone who's earned it and they'll spend it right, but someone who hasn't, because they don't know what to do with it. The same way a light plane doesn't know how to handle the air pressure of a jet engine or something. And so I think I don't even know, to be honest, but it's a pretty wild environment we're in. I feel for a lot of younger people.
Mike, here's where I'd like to take it next. So I touched on at the very start the concepts you've thrown around about time locking Bitcoin, and it's awesome. I gave you the nickname Cosmic Mike. I was so blown away about it. It's like, what planet is this guy working on? It's mad. I would encourage others, if they haven't seen it, go and check it out on other podcasts that Mike would have done. I want to nail into something here, which I think kind of brings all this together, which is how do we fund innovation? How do we fund ideas when Bitcoin exists, i.e. sound money? So, you went through that entrepreneurial path and, early stage fiat denominated funds that basically, money being thrown at ideas far, far earlier than ever would have been the case because of the proximity to the money spigot and the burnout of young entrepreneurs and how difficult that really is in real life.
Oh, man, so, therapy, the whole thing, dude. I promise you, it's a hard road. Yeah.
If Bitcoin's hurdle rate's 50% CAGR, right? First of all, you're not going to put your money into stuff that's not going to try and beat that.
Mm-hmm.
One. But two, entrepreneurs, do they give away as much control as they were before? Do they sell more of their company, less of their company? Do they put Bitcoin on the balance sheet and have a battery to draw from forever for their creativity? Let's say if you were going to start a company again, and you're trying to get investment, what kind of fund would you look to get it from? If at all, would you try and self-fund it?
Yeah, okay. So where I see it going is way less capital raising, for one. So way less. Everyone's going to figure out how to do it on smell of an oily rag. ChatGPT exists. Claude exists now. I just had a friend of mine call me. He's not a developer. He does some other stuff. And he's just showing me his website that he built. And he's like, dude, I've never built a website in my life. Now, that might sound very elementary, but that was actually a perfect case study for me because I know this dude. He's got nothing to do with building a website ever. And he's like, how good is this? And I'm like, okay, so the foundations that everyone has is much more powerful, let's say. So the springboard. So I don't think people are going to raise as much capital anymore. So capital raising and venture investing is likely going to be a thing of the past because unless it's hardware. So when it's hardware and physical stuff, that will be something. And that's where most of the money will go, hardware, because everything else in software feels far too reproducible. So investors aren't going to be writing checks for the new calendar app. Do you know what I mean? They're going to be writing it for the data center, the chip manufacturer, the whatever it is. These hard things that are not reproducible.
Scarce proof of work assets.
Literally, really, the bare metal stuff. And I think so the money's going to go down. The entrepreneurs' control and ownership or responsibility is going to go up even more because now they are probably going to be the product manager and the CEO and the operations manager to start with. Like before you needed a co-founder, I think you're going to see founders that create billion-dollar companies as solo founders with an AI assistant, and that's going to be who's going to be the first. It's not the first. Say,
rough timeline on that. What do you reckon? First $1 billion.
It's got to be 5 years. Less than 5 years.
Less than 5 years. Yeah,
less than
probably
5.
Be with you on that.
Yeah, I think it's ambitious, but you got to remember everyone's hurting. And when there's pain, there's so much more motivation. Like for everyone around the world. So there's kids there that are saying, "This is so fucked. I need to solve this problem." And those animals, they might be 14 or 16, but they're highly motivated. They're going to come through ripping and tearing with 5 years of co-pilot experience. Those guys are going to be monsters. And they're not going to have to hire 40 people. They're not going to have to figure out how to communicate effectively with 40 people because that's a huge thing. Office politics or whatever it is. All that song and dance. That's all latency. That's all delays in execution, basically. Busy work. So we're going to see lots of powerful founders raising very little money, and the product scope is going to be hyper specificity. So very specific problems, like solutions to problems.
A DM tool for a Nosta app or something.
Yeah,
the best possible DM experience, in a niche of the internet. Yeah,
very nichey. Because what's going to happen is you're going to build it once, and that's it. And you're going to build it, and it's like a Lego block. So people are going to be thinking far more Lego blocky. What Lego block can I build that's going to be a concrete, rock solid one for people, for the next 10, 20 years? And things like that will yield a lot more fulfillment from the individual because this sort of And
I was going to say, if that's true, will the founder, now that they are sales, marketing, operations, and product, great, that's possible because of all of these other improvements in creativity tools around them, they retain more control of the company, which presumably means that they're not under the same stress and strain to you've got to raise another round,
pressure,
you're going to run out of money, you're
going
to have to get a high equity valuation, otherwise no one's going to be interested in you next time. There might be heaven forbid a down round. So that I would hope we'll see a lot. I can almost feel so stressful.
Of course. So the
burnout might not be as high.
No, it won't be because the journey will be more organic because the people aren't raising money. And when you're not raising money, you're not collaborating with someone. Because even when people give you money, you're still collaborating with them in a way, right? You're still, here's the board meeting. Oh, well, we should do this. This is a bit better. Okay, cool. When you're you and it's just your baby and your project, you're like, yeah, fuck it, we'll try that. But the freedom and the empowerment that individuals are going to feel, just like we talked about in a fiat system, think of all those problems, being the business guy, raising money, all these kind of chores. That person is basically going to have so much of that out of their head. They don't have to figure out HR teams and office politics and how do I do employee reviews and all these lessons that you learn. They all come with more expenses, by the way. Oh, we've got this HR software. By the way, recruiters take a 30% cut, usually. You hire a $250K engineer from Netflix, you do the maths. That's a big chunk of money. And so the cost will be astronomically low. The founders will be absolutely rock stars and empowered. and the founders aren't going to be looking like nerds. They're going to, I reckon, look more like product managers, dudes that aren't super technical, but they speak both languages between customer experience and stuff like that. And then
they basically can take an array of off-the-shelf tools.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not experts, so that's like the saying, jack of all trades, master of none, is seldom time better than a master of one. I didn't know that was the full saying, but that's actually the full saying. So jack of all trades, master of none is seldom times better than a master of one. And that's what I would say, that this is the hackers. And I don't say hackers like engineers. I mean the hackers that figure it out. Oh, we'll figure it out. Oh, we managed to use this linked with that sort. Like, let's say, we figured out how to do it through Zapier or whatever. We connected it all so it works. Those kind of people, like, they're going to be rock stars, and they're going to be, like we said, hyper specific, niche orientated, I think, because everyone is realizing what happens when everyone can do everything.
Well, yeah, that is specialization, isn't it? By definition, right?
And so, because to separate yourself, if Jake can do everything, he can make the marketing, he can make 10 products this week. Well, I'm not going to try and compete with Jake making 10 products, because I can make 10 products too. But I want to make a really good one that Jake can't make. And that requires some uniqueness. And so that's why I think this hyper specificity is going to become a thing, because if everyone's got access to the surface layer knowledge, like we were saying before, everyone knows a lot, but they might not understand a lot. If everyone's got access to the surface layer, then the person that goes that layer deeper wins. And so if you are the expert at something, or you position yourself as a very narrow scope offering, I think that's where success is going to be waiting for you. And, in a world where we have every bit of information on speed dial synthesized, we don't even need to go on the internet and Google and then aggregate the results ourselves. We basically, these data sets, we talk to them now. We talk to the data set in natural language, and it spits stuff back to us. That's wild to think about.
Isn't it?
And so that means that original thought and creativity is the new currency of the future, because give me something I've never seen before. Like, the data is saying that I want something I've never seen before. And so you're trying to find these original pockets. And that's where I think expertise is the only way to find it. Because if everyone does know everything, but they don't understand much, that's where we call for all the experts who do understand the things that we all know to really put meat behind it, like meat behind, but then, put their experience and wisdom behind the knowledge that we've all got, so we can all understand it correctly. Now, what I mean by that is, people have written books on money. People have written thousands of books on money, on gold, on the gold standard. But some developer or some person basically said, no, I've got a really cool way to educate people about money. I'm going to make a hyper-specific protocol, and it just does one thing. It's a money protocol, and it doesn't break, so it lives forever. And that's Satoshi Nakamoto. That's what he's done. He's taught us about money. That's his artistic expression.
So true. Yeah.
And and that's why, like, the seed that he put, that seed,
it was just a white paper. Like,
just the white paper.
Absolutely on point. Wow.
And like, if you look at the supply chain from Satoshi's brain, and literally follow the electrical signal, brain, fingertips, keyboard, white paper, people, tremendous amount of energy displacement just from his thought. He connected them all correctly, that it's moved heaven and earth almost. Like, wild to think, but I always think that he's the first example. That's the first example. And I think there's going to be a lot of products at the scale of Bitcoin, like that impactful level. Wow. And I know that sounds wild to think, but
a cliche, like proper 0 to 1.
Very,
tools
yes.
Like, this didn't exist before. And
yes.
I like that idea of like discovery versus inventing.
Yes.
Oh, awesome, Mike. So 60 minutes, unsurprisingly, has just flown by.
Sorry.
No, that's perfect. I'd love to ask one last question, which is just if anyone's interested to get in touch and have a chat, how could they do that?
You can check it out on GitHub, Mike D123, or on X, Mike Woodhouse, my name.
Awesome.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for sharing all those thoughts today. I always get fresh insights from these conversations and also when speaking with you. So thank you very much for your time.
I appreciate it, and I have the same with you. Thank you very much, Jake. Appreciate it.